From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.
Good day. This is Dateline Malacañang in review. Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Monday led the launch of the National Fiber Backbone or NFB project Phases 2 and 3 in Palo, Leyte Province as part of government efforts to extend fast and reliable internet access across more regions in the country, especially in remote and underserved communities. The expanded phases of the NFB will provide an additional 100 gigabits per second of bandwidth through 31 new nodes of the National Grid Corporation of the Philippines or NGCP, benefiting at least 20 provinces, 1,000 government agencies, and an estimated 1.39 million users. In his speech, the President emphasized the urgency of digital connectivity as a basic need. The Chief Executive also acknowledged the disparity in internet access across the country, citing the daily struggles of those in geographically isolated and disadvantaged areas or GIDAs who still need to travel far just to find signal.
Dahil sa panahon ngayon, hindi na privilege ang pagkakaroon ng access sa mabilis na internet. Ito ay pangangailangan na. Kailangan ito sa pag-aaral, sa trabaho, sa negosyo, at para mapanatili ang koneksyon sa mga mahal sa buhay. Ngunit, ang katotohanan din ang hindi pantay-pantay ang access ng internet ng mga Pilipino. May ilang bahagi ng bansa na hindi pa rin naabot ng signal, kaya napipilitan pang bumiyahe ng malayo para maghanap ng signal. Kaya narito kami ngayon upang mailapit ang internet para sa lahat, lalo na sa mga nasa GIDAs, yung mga isolated and underserved areas.
That was Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Meanwhile, after leading the launch of the National Fiber Backbone Project Phases 2 and 3 in Palo, Leyte Province, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. held an online dialogue with schools and health units from various parts of the country utilizing the free public Wi-Fi. President Marcos led the launching of the free public Wi-Fi site at the MacArthur Landing Memorial National Park in Palo, reaffirming the government's commitment to expand digital connectivity across the country. Spearheaded by the Department of Information and Communications Technology, or DICT, the initiative is part of the Free Public Internet Access Program, or FPIAP, aimed at bridging the digital divide and improving public access to vital online services. During the event, President Marcos conducted an internet speed test with DICT Secretary Henry Aguda to demonstrate the reliability of the service. The President engaged in an online conversation with schools and health units from the provinces of Batanes, Zambales, Marawi, and Tawi-Tawi, showcasing the far-reaching benefits of the program. The test showed stable internet connectivity.
At gamitin nyo na mabuti yung internet natin para na-connected na tayo sa buong mundo. Hindi lamang sa Pilipinas, sa buong mundo. Good luck sa inyo lahat, boys and girls, mga teachers, mga guro. Maraming salamat po. Thank you po.
That was Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Marcos administration will double its efforts to open more job opportunities for Filipinos, Malacañang vowed Tuesday, as it welcomed the increase in employment in May of 2025. This after the Philippine Statistics Authority or PSA reported that the country's labor force now reached 65.8% of the population as of May, higher than the 64.8% logged in May of 2024. In a press briefing, Presidential Communications Office or PCO Undersecretary and Palace Press Officer Claire Castro said, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. is happy that government efforts to provide quality jobs to Filipinos are bearing fruit.
Yes, syempre po, masaya po at malugod na tinatanggap po ng Pangulo ang pag-uulat na yan dahil nakikita po natin ang pagporsigi ng administrasyon para mabigyan ng magandang trabaho ang mga kababayan natin. Sa ating mga pag-uulat ng mga nakaraang araw, marami po talaga tayo na ibigay na job fairs, na conduct ng job fairs para ito talaga sa ating mga kababayan. At pagpupursigihin pa, hindi ito natatapos dito. Kumbaga, hindi ito para magpunyagi. Kailangan mas maganda pa ang ipakita ng administrasyon para makapagbigay pa ng mas maraming trabaho sa ating mga kababayan.
According to government data, the government has provided 170,000 jobs for Filipinos through job fairs held from 2022 to May 1st of this year. Based on the PSA's labor force survey, an additional 1.4 million Filipinos have joined the labor force, which now consists of 52.32 million individuals. The unemployment rate declined to 3.9% in May, down from 4.1% in the same month last year. The underemployment rate rose to 13.1% in May from 9.9% in May of 2024 as more part-time workers seeking extra work hours cited variable working schedules or the nature of work as the reasons for working less than 40 hours per week, according to the PSA report.
Dateline Malacañang.
Malacañang announced on Tuesday that President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. is preparing for his fourth State of the Nation Address or SONA, aiming to provide a clear and thorough report to the Filipino people. President Marcos is scheduled to deliver his SONA to a joint session of Congress on July 28th at Batasang Pambansa, where he will outline his administration's progress halfway through his term and reaffirm policy directions in the economy, infrastructure, agriculture, digitalization, and national security. In a press briefing, Presidential Communications Office or PCO Undersecretary and Palace Press Officer Claire Castro stated, President Marcos is still working on polishing the address, emphasizing the importance of providing a clear and complete report to the Filipinos.
Opo, ang sabi po sa akin hanggang ngayon pa ay nagpe-prepare pa rin po at kailangan po na maging mas maganda ang pag-uulat sa taong bayan patungkol sa kanyang mga naging proyekto at mga achievements. Sa ngayon, wala pa po ako mabibigay na detalye. Baka po sa susunod na mga linggo, makapagbigay na po ako.
The House of Representatives began SONA preparations as early as May with some 27,000 security and response professionals expected to be deployed to secure the Batasan complex.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Wednesday led the ceremonial handover of 387 patient transport vehicles or PTVs to local government units or LGUs across Luzon. This marked the Philippine Charity Sweepstakes Office or PCSO's greatest single-day distribution of medical vehicles to date. Talking to local chief executives from Luzon at the Carino Grandstand in Manila, the President underlined his administration's commitment to universal healthcare access by guaranteeing that every city and municipality in the country has at least one medical transport vehicle by the end of 2025. Each truck is equipped with a stretcher, an oxygen tank, a blood pressure monitor, and other critical medical equipment to provide safe and fast emergency response and patient transportation. President Marcos stated that from June 2022 to June this year, a total of 680 PTVs were distributed nationwide. The current batch for Luzon is part of a larger rollout that includes 123 PTVs for Visayas and 105 for Mindanao.
Kaya, pag natapos natin lahat ito, by the end of the year, masasabi na natin lahat ng city and municipality ay nabigyan na natin ng ating patient transport vehicle. Ang plano natin sa susunod, dahil siyempre yung ibang bayan mas malaki sa ibang bayan, yung city mas malaki sa ibang city, titignan ngayon natin kung ano yung pangangailangan. We have to base it already on the population ng bawat lugar. So, yung malalaki talaga, kahit nabigyan ng isa, kailangan balikan natin dahil sa laki ng kanilang populasyon, kailangan natin maserbisyuhan lahat. Kaya yun ang babalikan natin. We now have today, in Luzon, sa Ilocos 30, Cagayan Valley 72, Central Luzon 100, Calabarzon 27, Mimaropa 59, Bicol Region 64, at Ancar 35.
That was Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Also on Wednesday, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. stated that the government is working toward a long-term objective of providing completely subsidized healthcare to all Filipinos, removing the need for patients to pay out of pocket for medical care. Speaking at the distribution of medical transport trucks at Manila's Quirino Grandstand, President Marcos said that the administration's priorities include not only boosting emergency response equipment, but also strengthening and expanding access to the country's healthcare system. The president said that plans are ongoing to renovate public hospitals, construct specialized centers, and expand bagong urgent care and ambulatory service or bukas clinics for non-emergency conditions that do not necessitate detention. He highlighted that, in addition to enhancing infrastructure and services, the government is trying to reduce the financial burden on patients, with the ultimate goal of eliminating all out-of-pocket healthcare payments. President Marcos said that after the economy stabilizes, the government might cover the entire cost of hospital care, with just modest administrative costs comparable to other countries' universal healthcare systems. The president admitted that the current system and budget are insufficient to support a no-payment model, but reassured the people that the government is realigning priorities to achieve that goal. The remarks are part of the Marcos administration's larger effort to promote public health access, particularly for low-income and marginalized regions.
Kaya ipagpapatuloy namin ang pagpapatibay hindi lamang sa paramihan nitong transport vehicle, kundi pati na ang buong health system natin, buong healthcare system natin. Inaayos natin ang ating mga ospital, linagyan na natin ng mga specialty centers. Meron tayo ng bago, yung tinatawag na bukas na center para sa mga karamdaman na hindi naman kailangan na ma-ospital, na ma-confine. Lahat po yan. Yung PhilHealth, pinaparami natin ang insurance coverage, pinaparami natin ang serbisyong ibinibigay ng PhilHealth, binababaan natin ang payment, ang bayad. Kasi kahit papano, yung pasyente, pagka magpapatingin o magpapagaling, ay meron pa rin kontribusyon. Dahan-dahan namin babawasan yung kontribusyon ng pasyente. At kung tayo ay magawa natin, pag naayos natin ang ating ekonomiya na mabuti at kaya na natin, ay kaya naman siguro natin, wala nang kontribusyon ng pasyente. Bigyan na lang natin ng siguro yung kagaya sa ibang lugar na nakikita ko, na nasubukan ko, administrative cost lang. Wala yun, mga 100 piso yun. Tama na yun. Yun lang ang siguro na ibigay nila. Yun lang, that is the aspiration.
That was Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Thursday expressed condolences and solidarity with the United States, particularly the people of Texas, in the wake of the catastrophic flooding that has claimed lives and displaced thousands. In an official statement released by Malacañang, the president extended his deepest sympathies to U.S. President Donald Trump and the American people as they faced the devastating floods in Texas. The chief executive said the Philippines, a country vulnerable to natural disasters due to its geographical location along the Pacific Ring of Fire and the Pacific Typhoon Belt, knows the challenges of rebuilding after disaster and grieves with the families who have lost loved ones. President Marcos expressed confidence that Texas would overcome the tragedy with unity and strong leadership. Torrential rains and record-breaking flash floods swept across central Texas over the weekend, prompting mass evacuations and emergency declarations in multiple counties. At least 119 people had reportedly been killed in the catastrophic deluge. Majority of the casualties were recorded in Kerr County, a part of the Texas Hill Country northwest of San Antonio. On Wednesday, the palace, citing information from the Philippine Consulate General in Houston, stated that no Filipino has been affected by the devastating floods.
Dateline Malacañang.
In other news Thursday, the Philippines Department of Migrant Workers, or DMW, is working on verifying reports that Houthi forces may have kidnapped several crew members of MV Eternity Sea after attacking and sinking the vessel while traversing the Red Sea. In a palace press briefing, Migrant Workers Secretary Hans Leo Kakdak said that 5 Filipino crew members and an Indian armed guard out of the 22 crew of MV Eternity Sea have been rescued from the waters, while the rest are considered missing. Kakdak said President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has ordered a whole-of-government effort to support the families of the missing crew members, including financial aid, medical assistance, and psychosocial support.
At ang nadatnan ng rescue team doon ay merong 5 tripulante in the water, kaya't sila ay naligtas. Ngayon, ang MV Eternity Sea has 22 seafarers, 21 Filipino seafarers with the captain, no? So 21 lahat, ang kapitan ay Pinoy, at yung isa ay foreign national. So 22. Ngayon, with the rescue of the 5 ay 16. 16 sa ngayon, ang inaantabayanan pa rin natin kung anong kinaratnan. Meron pa ring search operation as far as we know at patuloy ang paghahanap sa kanila. Bukod sa 5, merong isang nahanap na Indian Armed Guard. So 6, 5 Filipino seafarers and 1 Indian Armed Guard. At yung 5 na sagip na tripulante ay papunta ngayon sa isang destinasyon na hindi ko babanggitin for security reasons. Hindi ko rin babanggitin kung paano sila makakarating doon at gaano katagal. Again, for security reasons, pagpasensyahan nyo na. But rest assured, once there will be an opportunity to get in touch with them, we will, of course, do all we can to provide the necessary assistance. And starting with medical and physical and mental health assistance that we could provide to them. And of course, to find out some details about what happened, particularly yung kinaratnan nung 16 at yung mga napapaulat sa international media na 4 na nasawi. Sa ngayon, meron kaming impormasyon ng 3 nasawi through the UK MTO. Pero again, this too is subject to confirmation.
The bulk carrier MV Eternity Sea was attacked on July 7th by Houthi rebels using a drone boat and ballistic missiles while heading toward the port of Eilat in southern Israel. The ship sank early on July 8th, about 50 nautical miles west of Hodeidah, Yemen. Kakdak said aside from the Department of Foreign Affairs or DFA, they are also working with the Philippine Defense Attaché in Bahrain and international maritime security partners to gather reliable information and coordinate any possible rescue efforts. Currently, Kakdak said the Philippine government is focusing on the rescue efforts of the 16 missing Filipino seafarers while also verifying reports from the UK Maritime Trade Operations or UKMTO that there are fatalities. He said the Licensed Manning Agency or LMA and the ship's principal have been suspended pending a full investigation on the alleged violation of DMW's strict safety protocols prohibiting Filipino seafarers from boarding ships transiting the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. Kakdak said that the initial probe reveals that the vessel crossed the Red Sea twice, bypassing regulations and exposing its crew members to danger. Aside from the suspension, he said, the DMW is looking at possible legal actions against the LMA and the ship owner.
We're not happy, of course, with the way things turned out in terms of pinabiyahe yung mga tripulante sa high-risk zone. Currently, suspendido ang Licensed Manning Agency at ang principal nito bilang paunang pagpataw natin ng regulatory measure, but there will be an investigation to take place. Napakahigpit ng ating regulatory requirements, reportorial requirements prior to boarding any Filipino seafarer to any ship that will traverse the Red Sea or Gulf of Aden. Meron pang kailangan isubmit na risk assessment, meron pang requirement ng armed guard at maritime security escort. And our initial investigation reveals that these were all not observed. At hindi lamang yun, 2 beses nag-traverse sa Red Sea. Kasi kung titrace mo yung rota niya ng Egypt to Somalia, that's one, okay? That's one turn or one crossing across the Red Sea. And then bumalik ng Jeddah, so a second one. So at least 2 counts of violations of our rules and regulations. But again, the most important thing at this stage would be the rescue of our seafarers, and this must be undertaken immediately. As soon as possible.
Was Migrant Workers Secretary Hans Leo Kakdak.
Dateline Malacañang.
Also on Thursday, the Philippine government will hold talks with the United States next week to discuss the newly imposed 20% tariff on Philippine exports as part of efforts to secure fairer trade terms. Special Assistant to the President for Investment and Economic Affairs, Secretary Frederick Go, confirmed that a high-level delegation, including officials from the Department of Trade and Industry or DTI, will travel to Washington, D.C. to engage with U.S. trade representatives. In a press briefing in Malacañang, Go said the government is concerned that the U.S. has decided to impose a 20% tariff on Philippine exports. Go clarified that the trip was already scheduled even before the latest U.S. tariff announcement, but the issue is now a top agenda item. He also said that the country's top exports, semiconductors and electronics, are exempted from the new tariff scheme, which is set to take effect in August. Go said the U.S. officials are still reviewing whether to maintain these exemptions, but for now, the Philippines is in a relatively favorable position. Beyond short-term adjustments, Go noted that the administration is laying the groundwork for broader trade arrangements that will support Filipino industries and expand global market access.
We are in receipt of the United States' latest reciprocal tariff for the Philippines. We are concerned that the U.S. has decided to impose a 20% tariff on Philippine exports. The fact remains, however, that the 20% rate is the second lowest among all reciprocal tariffs that the U.S. has imposed on the region. the lowest being the 10% of Singapore. But more importantly than all of this, we remain committed to continuing negotiations with the United States in good faith to pursue a bilateral comprehensive economic agreement, or, if possible, an FTA.
That was Special Assistant to the President for Investment and Economic Affairs, Secretary Frederick Go.
Dateline Malacañang.
And finally, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. is set to visit the United States in a few days, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said. The U.S. top diplomat made the announcement on the sidelines of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN Regional Forum Foreign Ministers meeting and the trilateral U.S.-Philippines-Japan Foreign Ministers meeting in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia on Thursday. Rubio said the U.S. has a great relationship with Japan and the Philippines and work very closely with them on the economic corridor, on maritime security and territorial integrity, and continue to build upon that partnership and look forward to hosting the President of the Philippines in Washington in a few days. No specific details on the date have so far been provided. President Marcos visited Washington, D.C. in April of 2024 to attend the first U.S.-Philippines-Japan Trilateral Summit. The historic meeting, which aimed to enhance the economic and maritime cooperation among the three countries, led to the launch of the Luzon Economic Corridor, a flagship program designed to develop key industrial and trade zones in Luzon.
Dateline Malacañang.
Before we conclude our program, Radyo Pilipinas World Service of the Presidential Broadcast Service is live on audio streaming. Just download Evox PBS Receiver on your Google Play Store or the App Store from your Apple phone. You can also visit our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Just type in and search for Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Kindly subscribe, like, and share our post as well. And that concludes this edition of Dateline Malacañang in Review. For Radyo Pilipinas World Service, this is Leo Magpayo. Good day and stay safe.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.